Hello, everybody. Andy McGovern here with Andresa Silvera. Another episode of our Irwin Tech Talks. Today, we're going to be focusing on the Irwin scheduler. And if you're saying, what scheduler? That's why we're covering this. This is added in 2020 R1 based on customer demand. It's a really cool feature, especially if you're in an organization with lots of or even a large database that you're responsible for managing. So we'll take you through this on our Tech Talk today. But before we do that, I'd like to introduce Andresa Silvera. How are you, Andresa?
Hi, Andy. I'm great. How are you?
I am very well, and I'm glad to hear that you are. So you ready to do this?
Let's roll.
All right. Yes. Irwin Data Modeler now has a scheduler, and this was based on customer feedback. If you want to read through the slide, go right ahead. One of the big issues when you're working with the data modeler, if you're reverse engineering a large database, it was you set it and you'd have to forget about it because you couldn't do anything else with it. So by adding the scheduler, we can allow our end users to run this overnight without bogging down their data modeling responsibilities through the day. And the nice thing about this is if you're going to, even if you're setting, we're running a reverse engineer before you left for the day, if you were supposed to do it on a regular basis, I guarantee at some point, well, if you were me, I could guarantee that at some point I would forget to do it. So the scheduler take care of that automation process. So by having a scheduler for reverse engineering, we can set this to run on a regular basis. We can set them to run on an emergency basis later today. And we can also use this to schedule complete compares. So if you're watching these sessions in sequence, Andresa and I started off with reverse engineering, and then we went into detail about complete compare. So now we're going to be talking about the scheduler as to how we can automate that process. And then our next session, we're going to be talking about forward engineering. So as a quick reminder to everybody, these sessions that we're doing are meant to supplement what we have in our online help. We're using these sessions for folks who aren't keen on reading the friendly manual, and I don't blame you. But at some point, I'm going to point you back to that manual because that's where you're going to get the detail about what we're talking about. But these sessions should help you confidently approach using these features and then use online help to get more details to go through there. So these are the steps running with the scheduler. You're going to install it alongside of Irwin Data Modeler. This is going to hold true for 2020 R1, 2020 R1 SP1, and then also in the future releases. The scheduler is going to be all part of this. It's installed during the installation of the data modeler. If you don't already have it, you can go through and reinstall it. The trick here is that this does need to be installed and run as an administrator because we're going to create a service on the back end that's going to take care of all this. Because it's not magic. We actually do have to leverage the Windows platform to make all of this happen. So it's very straightforward. Once it's in there, you can start using it. The way it's set up is we have three panes. We have the ribbon, which will show you your connections, the navigation, which is the date picker, and then the calendar view. So very straightforward. So let's jump into it here. And let me make sure that I set this up as administrator, and I didn't, Andresa. All right, so here we go. We're going to run this as an administrator.
I know you did that on purpose so you could show people how to access it.
Maybe I did. All right, yeah. So here we are. All right, we're in the data modeler. We're not even going to look at a model right now because we're just going to focus directly on the scheduler. So this is where you're going to access the scheduler. It does pop up as a separate app, and you'll see that down here. And looks like we're in Microsoft Office. So within here, this is how you're going to set up your scheduled connections. If you're working with the workgroup edition, this is where you would make a connection to the Mart. We're not going to cover that now. We're going to do more sessions specifically around the Workgroup Edition. And then this will be apparent. We'll even jump in to show how we can use the Workgroup Edition and scheduling specifically. Right now, we're going to work on reverse engineering and scheduling this on a regular basis. So we've got the different views. Let's see if I have anything baked in here yet. Nope, not yet. We can set a new schedule within here. Keep in mind, we can set up the time scale, the calendar options, but more importantly, the email notifications. So these can be set to whoever is responsible for this to let you know when the job's been created, the job start, the job ended, or if you just want to be notified if there's errors, we can set all of this up. And we'll configure this to integrate with your SMTP server to provide for notifications. So no surprises in the morning. You'll get them at 3 o'clock in the morning before you get to work, which is way better than finding out after somebody else finds out. All right, so here is the scheduler with the event details. We're going to call this Tech Talk. And then here's where you're going to set up your start times, your end times, whether it's an all-day event. If you do it here, you can actually run this right now, but we're not going to do that. You can set it as an all-day event. That's probably just because of the calendar API. Schedule now, we can set this to run. It will grab your default time. And then you can specify the recurrence over here. Everybody's seen this in Office, so the recurrences will be set directly in here. The other things that you have your labels. So if you want to make these colorized, we'll go with teal, and then we can categorize these. So as you'd have a big schedule that's all set in here, when you look at the master schedule, colorization is the key to understanding. I know that because I've been working with all kinds of scheduling products over my career. All right, so here's where we're going to do this. We're going to set this up just to do reverse engineer, and I'll show you how we can configure complete compare, but we're just going to configure it specifically for reverse engineering. So quick review, these are all of the DBMS systems that we support. This is just like you would see in the reverse engineering wizard. You're going to have this drop down here. So we'll select SQL Server, and then you'll have your different versions here. And this is where we set the parameters for reverse engineering. So we're going to go from a database you cannot do from a DDL using the scheduler for obvious reasons. If you take advantage of the name standard mapping forward or logical to physical functionality, you can inject your name standard mapping file within here. All of these options cover in a different session. And here's where we're going to put our models in place. So we're going to call this Tech Talk. Now I'm using this distinctly against the standard edition. If you were working in the MART, and like I said, we'll cover this in another session, this is where we access the catalog. So we're set now. So now we've got our reverse engineer set up, and we're going to output to this model file. We're going to put our credentials in here, and we'll save these encrypted. And then we're all set. So we hit OK. And there's my job, and I did kick it off to run right now. So it's actually running right now. And then we'll have a log file of that information, and we'll also have an outputted model. Very simple. Now, once you have all this in place, you will be able to see all of your scheduled jobs. The schedule view, I think, is a little convoluted. I like the monthly view so you can see how we have these set. We've got a complete compare schedule to be running at 1 o'clock in the morning on Sunday, the best maintenance window. Here's our job right here. Here's Tech Talk, and we can see that this is completed. And then we can get the detailed information directly in here, and then we can also, I believe, see the log file within here. Pretty slick, wouldn't you say, Andresa?
Definitely. I can only imagine how much time people can save with this.
Good point. This is the sort of thing that, yeah, people have been asking about this for a long time. Now, since they've asked for this and now that it's available, what was the first thing that they asked once they saw this, Andrea?
No clue. What is it?
Well, can I forward engineer too?
Of course.
All right. So we are working on that. That may be included in a future release. But if you think about it, folks, automating forward engineering could be very, very, very dangerous, right? Just think
Yeah.
about that. Yeah, you don't want to get a forward engineering failure at 2 o'clock in the morning as you're rebuilding your production database. We will include that. All right, like I said, we got pretty smart customers, so but forward engineering on an automated basis does frighten me a little bit. But we're probably going to put it in there eventually, because one thing you'll find, folks, if you've been with Irwin for a while, you're probably really pleased with how much improvement and innovation we're showing with these products. As a practical matter, Andresa and I and Jeff, who was our counterpart in the EMEA, we all report into product management now. So we used to be aligned to sales, but by having that direct line, we, as on the front lines, are reporting directly back and saying this is what our customers are specifically asking for, without having to wait for it to get to, through a request that goes to an account manager, et cetera. So we're going to continue to do that as we develop these solutions. All right. So we saw how to schedule a reverse engineer. We're going to fire up a quick one here, and we're going to call this the Tech Talk CC. I am not going to schedule this now. We're going to schedule this for the future. Doesn't kick off right away. So start time 5:15. We'll kick it off. Now this end time, I think you get an alert if it goes over that. So now we're going to set this up to reverse engineer. So we'll set up the name here, and then this will be stored in the locally, because we're with the standard edition. And then the complete compare, what we'll do is you'll browse to, oh, look at that. There's my model that we did from reverse engineering, right? So now we just basically pick that up quickly. So here's our complete compare, and then our output file will be set here. So we'll just do this CCC output. And we'll set that here. So this is where we'll see the differences between the two models within here. And then our speed option set is also available. And if you want to know more about that, you want to watch the session on complete compare. And now we'll set this up. Yeah, I don't know how to figure that. So we'll call this Tech Talk model.irwin. Again, it's going to ask for those credentials. It'll save them encrypted. And now we can see that this is scheduled for May 16th at 0100. There we go. So we just looked at the latest features of Irwin Data Modeler's scheduler. We scheduled a reverse engineer. We also scheduled a complete compare. So that's going to conclude our session for today. Stay tuned and join us for other sessions as they come up. We still have to get to forward engineering and active model templates. So those are all on deck. We look forward to you joining us in any of those future sessions, which you can view at your leisure. So thank you very much for your help, Andresa, and moral support. I always appreciate it. Thank you, everybody. Stay tuned. There's more to come.